Here is a do-it-yourself project, making two versions of faux piping bags, one with a solid bag color and the other with an opaque or slightly see-through, for miniature displays. Materials and suggested supplies are shown in the video and listed below. One of my goals was for the larger scales to have fillable bags that can be twisted at the ends. I made a number of piping bags from 1/32 to 2 inches in length for the micro scales all the way up to 1/6 or Barbie scale. A while back, I did a video on a miniature 2-tiered carousel display, and I wanted to make some piping bags for the baking preparation scene on the little dessert macaron cookies. I used the same method to make the piping bags except for the 1/32 scale, and that's pretty much just a little piece of paper that I curved on the stylus. The rest of the sizes, I was able to make a cone shape. At first, I tried to use parchment baking paper and using the square process. That includes cutting it into 2 triangles, but this just was too bulky and I was having a hard time trying to keep the cone into a curved shape. Then I decided to try regular copy paper with some of my paper punches and the circle stencil for any of the sizes I didn't have. This process uses a circle shape cut out, then folded in half and half again, or quartered, and then you cut along the fold or the crease marks. One circle will make 4 piping bags, half the size and length from the original circle diameter. Or, for example, a 2-inch piping bag was made from a 4-inch diameter circle. Gently press the fold creases, then open the circle, and then cut along a crease. Next, take the 2 outside circle ends and roll them into a cone shape. The bag tip or the point end is from the middle of the circle that you've cut. To make the cone, and this is the 1/12 scale version, which was from a 2-inch circle that I quartered, I found the easiest way is to take the piece and use a pin or a toothpick at the point, just to hold that shape there. Once the point or the tip area and the top of the cone come together, then do a gentle crease, and then fold over the other piece, and it's kind of in 3 different sections from the crease. Put a little strip of glue, and then you're going to go ahead and fold it onto itself there. And it's going to be kind of flat for a second. Let that dry. Make sure that the point or the tip point is okay, and then you can open it up, and then you should be able to shape it just a little bit. You might have to put a little toothpick down in there to get the tip area back into shape. Now I'm ready to try to make a semi-clear piping bag. At first, I tried using a cut-up plastic baggie, but I was unable to get the cone shape to stay glued. And then I remembered my box of press and seal food wrap that was next to my parchment paper. It's not crystal clear, but I thought maybe it might work. So I cut off a strip, and then I lay it down, and I put the sticky side so it's facing up. I was having a little bit of trouble trying to get it to lie flat, and even as I did it, I thought, oh gosh, some of it curled over on itself, and I could not get it to pull apart, and I thought, okay, this idea might not work either. I just wasn't ready to give up on this idea. I really wanted a clear or semi-clear, opaque piping bag, and I wanted to figure out how to do it. So then I thought, if I lay it down flat, and I maybe put something on top of it to keep it from sticking on itself, maybe I could get it to work. So then I went back to my little box of food wraps, and I decided to get out the clear cling wrap and put a strip on top of it. And so we know the end of the story because I am able to get this to work. But at this point, I did not know if it was going to work, and I just press it on top of the sticky side. And then I try to smooth out any of the wrinkles. And next, to create the circles, my hole punches will not go through the cling wrap, so I'm going to have to draw on the circles. The pencil didn't work very well, so I took a pen and drew it around a circle. I used my scissors to go ahead and cut a piece of the wrap out so I can cut the circle out. And I'm going around the ink on the pen, and I know the ink is going to be a problem. So I'm going to have to wipe that off. I don't know if I really want to put some rubbing alcohol and rub it off, or just maybe just try a tissue and to see if I can get that off, the ink. I think the ink is a problem because I want to have a clear bag and I don't want to have that outline. So I do try the tissue first, and the ink is still a little bit wet, so it rubs off pretty easily. The process is very similar to the solid cone by quartering the circle. But what I do is I just have it first, cut it in half, and then I'm going to cut that half into half or into a quarter shape. Making the cone shape through the semi-clear opaque material is a little bit more, it's more delicate, it's a lot more flexible. It's a little bit harder, I think, to get that shape, but it's going to be the same process where you're going to take a toothpick or a pin and place it at the point or the tip end, and then it kind of curls up just a little bit. So I am trying to use the really clear side for the inside. So I place the pin or the toothpick down, and then I'm going to fold it over and try to get the tip and the top of the cone together, place a strip of glue, and then fold the glued end over on top of the other side and press it. Now, I like to leave this one set a little bit and let it dry so the glue dries good, but you're going to want to get in there with a toothpick to make sure that the tip end still has the little cone shape. So if it's still a little wet from the glue, just gently go in and just kind of open that up just a tiny bit. And so it's basically flat, and I'm going to go in, and so again, you have to be really careful because it will lift the side up. That's still in the process of drying. So I'm going to put that in there with the toothpick now. And it actually went through on that one, but that's okay because we're going to end up cutting off those tips and replace them with little metal bits or plastic bits or paper. For the smaller scales, thin pieces of wire or thread or plastic store tag bits work for the ends. In the back there, I've got some plastic tips that are regular size, and they also come in silver. Another idea is to use the ends, the metal ends from a mechanical pencil or a pen. It kind of has a cone shape, or use that clear or silver cylinder, kind of a bugle bead. There's the store tag bit. And then you could take a strip of paper, paint it silver or leave it white, curl it around a toothpick or sewing pin, glue it together, and then once it's dry, glue it to the tip of a bag. So if you have any pens or mechanical pencils that don't work, I take it apart by unwinding at the end and pull it out. I'm going to take that little spring off and make sure there's not any ink in there, or have a paper towel to catch the ink, and take a wire cutter, and then you'll be able to cut that metal piece off. And I have some mechanical pencils that have some of those little tips on it. So I take it, and you can twist off the clear part at the bottom to get inside and reach that little silver part. And then it has a little plastic bit. Sometimes you can pull it off that plastic bit, and then you have two pieces, which I end up using both of those pieces. So once the piping bags are dry, you're going to take a craft knife or a pair of scissors and just cut off the ends, and just take a little bit off at a time, depending on what size your tip is, your bugle bead or your wire. And so if you do a little at a time, you'll be able to see what fits. And I'm placing the little tip inside of the piping bag and pushing it down through because I want it snug. But for example, I'm going to have to cut this. I end up cutting it 3 or 4 times. I'm just taking a little sliver off at a time. So then I continue to try to see if the tip will fit through. If it doesn't, I snip a little bit more off, and then I'll try to refit it. Once you get it where you need it, add a little dab of glue on the inside to hold it fast. And then I'm going to add the mechanical pencil silver tip at the end on one of the semi-clear bags. Next, I tried to use the little plastic bit from the mechanical pencil that was holding on the little silver part, and I go through the same process of just snipping off a little bit at the end and refitting and keep snipping until it can go in. Once I get it to fit, I add a little dab of glue. Then I do the same process when I try the little bugle bead. I keep trimming, keep trying to see if it'll fit. Once I get it to size, then I put a dab of glue, and that one's good to go. And here are two of my versions of piping bags, the solid and the semi-clear, with several different tips at the bottom. The little pen or pencil tips, and then the plastic from the inside of the pencil or pen, and then the little bead. I just noticed that some of the little tips that I cut off on these 1/12 scale, clear over to the right, look like they could be the smaller scale piping bags, so that might be another option. To add filling to the piping bags, the solid version, I use kitchen towel or paper towel, and then you can kind of roll it into a little shape or just stuff it in. And then I would leave a little bit at the end so that you can twist it. Right now I'm showing you what I've got in there. I've got a paper towel, and then I was going to use little foam balls, but it was taking forever. So I just took a little piece of paper towel, and then I put it in there and to give it a little shape. And then I go ahead and try twisting the top. To add filling to the semi-clear opaque piping bags, I tried to get about 3/4 to 1/2 inch in length for the size of the bag. I picked a little semicircle to put in there, and I just roll it up, and then I place it in there. You can see I had the purple, and then I replace it with the pink. So I do think I met my goal of trying to have a refillable, reusable piping bag, depending on what kind of baking scene or pastry scene that I'll be using. The bag that has the purple and the pink filling is a 1/6 scale or Barbie doll scale. And then the bag that will have the red and the yellow, that's the 1/12 scale. Well, I hope you like and share this video, making miniature piping bags. Thank you so much for watching.